All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Limitless MD. I'm your host, Vikram Raya, and today I have Dr. Chen, and she is what we call the real estate physician. She has really grown and really been impressive in her expansion of her skill sets. She went from not only just being a physician serving patients in multiple cities across the country, but now she is serving doctors in providing solutions to grow income and wealth with her company, the Real Estate Physician. So, Cherry, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Vikram. Really looking forward to this.
What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? My name is Vikram Raya, functional cardiologist, high performance coach, and real estate expert. And I'm here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life so you can unlock your limitless potential and achieve greatness, all the while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in. You know, it seems to be sort of cool to be in real estate nowadays as a doctor from, all the people we both know. But to be honest with you, the vast majority of doctors don't invest in real estate. Tell me how your mindset has sort of shifted, changed, evolved over the last few years.
Yeah, no, that's great question. So I would say, yeah, most people, not only doctors, right? People, working their full-time jobs, don't know much about real estate investing besides, getting a rental, right, or Airbnb. That's really all I know about it. So I've been investing in real estate for about 6 years myself. It really all started from just me really, asking questions and remaining curious. So that's kind of my nature. And it was about, a year and a half out of training, and I was working as an attending. We've never been exposed to real estate investing, most of us, but you have your 401k, right? So I had contributed my 401k, you were getting matched at work. So you're like, this is good. And then you have a high paycheck as an attending then through training. So my journey really just started with asking myself, okay, what else is there besides a 401k if I wanted to, invest more, right? And so
let me ask you a question. Why even ask that question? Why were you so keen on investing more? Why aren't you're a doctor, aren't you rich?
I know that's a really good question. I think it pretty much stems from probably, my parents were entrepreneurs as well. And so I, kind of growing up, they were always doing, investing or saving, right, of some sort. But I didn't know even when I asked that question, several years ago, I wasn't thinking, oh, I want passive income or, oh, the benefits of real estate investing, right? I didn't know anything beyond that. I was just merely asking, well, if I have money after 401k, right? Because we make decent income, a paycheck from being a doctor, and what other vehicle is there? I really wasn't knowledgeable about real estate at all. I didn't know the tax benefits. I didn't really think about passive income in general. I just wanted to put my money to work, right? And I think it started from there.
And then I'm going to push you here a little bit.
Yeah.
You want to put your money to work so that?
Yes. So that you can have time, freedom to do whatever you want to do, right? I think that's the initial basic, definition.
You wanted to free up time because you knew that being as a doctor, that's one of the things we give up.
Correct. And I would say, because I was only a year and a half, right, into my training. So I wasn't, looking to retire.
So you were still training when you started investing in real estate?
I was attending about a year or year and a half.
Year and a half as being an attending. Okay. I just want to clarify that.
So
I wasn't, fresh out, you got a little bit of money. A lot of doctors say, hey, you know what? It's time to buy the doctor car and the doctor house. Tell me your thoughts on that.
So I can't, I would honestly say like 5-6 years ago when this all happened, it wasn't like a lot of second order thinking, right? I wasn't thinking, oh, assets, liabilities, or passive income, time freedom, personal freedom, financial freedom, none of that, right? Because you're just starting your career and you're like, I'm so glad I still get paid and I get paid more now to do what I like to do, right? And so that's why I think I just goes back to me being a genuinely very curious person, and being an internist, right? I want to know all my options. So
Yeah.
it was purely a very curious, kind of intellectual pursuit at first. And then the more I learned, I was like, oh, okay, well, you think besides stocks, my second thought was, okay, real estate, and I'll get a rental, right? That's all I knew about real estate.
So
And then I started digging
how did
from
you
there.
start your journey? Because I really am trying to unpack this for the new doctors out there, or the doctors who really put their nose down and they're really, working hard. Now they're starting to get some income, but they're not
Yeah.
exposed to this new world of alternative investing, I call it, which is outside of, it's wealth without Wall Street, right? How do you create wealth without Wall
Yeah.
Street? So tell me, how did you start exploring possibilities and options in real estate?
Right. So I thought, hey, I've got to get a single family rental because that's the only thing that came to my mind when I thought real estate, which I think most people would agree, And so you don't know, you've never heard the word real estate syndication, or I didn't know I could go invest into apartments or, besides single family or Airbnb, right? So that was my only thought process. And again, not knowing the attributes of real estate, I just thought, okay, well, if I got a single family, condo, for example, put on Airbnb, it would be really fun, and it kind of just makes sense. And I think because most of us are familiar with real estate on some level, right? Live in an apartment or home, whether through training, growing up, or during residency. You intuitively understand real estate. You pay rent where there's mortgage, right? So I think many people are comfortable with the asset itself, kind of just on a basic level, understanding it, but you don't really understand the mechanics of it as an investment, unless you actually, do the homework and look into it. So that's kind of what I did. I was
Were,
just looking.
were you
Okay,
afraid to lose money?
most certainly, yes, yes. So that's the one thing, as doctors, right? You go to work, you get a paycheck. It's a certainty, right? Anything in investment or anything in business, starting your own business, there is no certainty in that, right? And so that's where we can get analysis paralysis, overanalyze. Who do you trust? All these questions come out, and the I guess the only defense you have is to educate yourself, right? And now I think there's a lot more resources, a lot of free education out there, people you can ask with experience. Yeah.
What's like, if I'm a doctor and I want to, first I want to start with single family and short-term rentals. Give me three resources right now that you'd recommend I go explore.
Probably the first one that comes to mind is Bigger Pockets. That's kind of a just all around community of real estate investors, educators. There's a forum probably for every single one of those you mentioned, and a lot of people just sharing information, right? So I would definitely start there.
Okay.
They also have their own podcast. I don't do short-term rentals, so I don't, know any other short-term rental podcast specific, but I would say Bigger Pockets
Okay.
is where I would start for
Okay.
sure.
And then any other resource in general, just for overall, like just getting started in real estate?
So I would say like it's not so I know you like mindset a lot too, and it's something I focus on a lot too. So I would say rather than resource, especially for doctors, like I try to, want to help doctors think, okay, not what can I do, but to really kind of really work out the framework of what an investment is supposed to do for you, right? And because most of us can go get a loan, get a single family, put money down, and then you have one, two, three, rentals, depending how aggressive you want to be. But one thing I like to, think about or kind of help you frame it is to think about the opportunity cost, right? Is not only of your capital, of course, since you're thinking about investing, but of your time and of your effort or knowledge, or because when you get a single family rental, it does take time away from you to manage your manager or any unforeseen causes. And then, there's the experience or effort, right? You can get a rental in your own backyard if you're familiar with it versus getting a rental, for example, in Dallas or Phoenix, Orlando, right? Really great markets. But you have to do your homework in those markets, right? So the time and experience,
So,
besides just thinking I have $50,000, for
so
example.
Cherry, would you say that, okay, let's put all doctors into four buckets. One, they have no interest in real estate, never will. Boom, one bucket. Number two, they
Yeah,
love real estate. They want to get involved themselves. That's called an
right,
active investor. Let's start with single family, perhaps, maybe small multifamily, or some other asset class within real estate. There's a ton of them out there, you know.
right.
Then there's option three, which is, hey, I want to do active, but maybe that's just for to my intellectual curiosity and just get my feet wet. But if I really want to grow wealth on a fast scale and
Hmm.
I want to actually preserve time, because the reason you're doing real estate is to create time as well, money and time. So you may lose that by doing so much of your own real estate if you don't figure out how to scale, right? LGS, which I always call leverage, growth, and scale. That's where
Right.
you transition from single family investing briefly into multifamily investing, which is you start with probably smaller units and now you're doing 100, 200, 400, 300 big doors with
Yeah.
your strategic partners. And so now that's another way they can invest, where they do a little bit on their own, but now they can work with someone like you with your company, a real estate physician, and invest passively. And then there's people who maybe invest passively and that's all they do and they're happy with that. And they don't even start with a single family home if they don't want to.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. There's a whole spectrum, right? And what that's kind of, when I started, I was like, oh, do I want to go, purchase a, condo? But right, looking back now, I know, hey, I don't have much scale. There's not much leverage. There's not much liability. I would be putting more money down in a one single unit condo than putting 50,000 in a 300 unit apartment complex, right? And being passive. But you bring up very good points. Is how active or passive you want to be. I think that's definitely something to, I think that's more important than, oh, how much passive income I would want. And then how much of your portfolio, or your risk appetite when you understand the characteristics, right, of what makes an active investment different from a passive investment, for
So
example.
let's talk about something very interesting here. You started practicing in 2016 as a full-time physician. 2018, you started a company, the Real Estate Physician, and you do that because you want to empower physician colleagues to invest in real estate so they can grow their wealth. Um, you started that company. What was your goal in 2018 when you started that company?
Yeah, so certainly it was. So,
So your personal goal and sort of a
2018.
professional goal, like for
Yeah,
using it.
so kind of, background, I had no idea I would start something like this or own my own company, or talk to other physicians. But so I had been investing in syndications a couple years, right, before founding the company. So during those couple of years, I was, I started as a passive investor, and then kind of for my own knowledge and education, I, pretty much learned, okay, well, besides being a passive investor, what actually happens in a syndication, right? A to Z of a syndication. I toured properties, I underwrote properties, I talked to brokers, I talked to property management firms, insurance companies. So part of just my knowledge of understanding what these investments were doing with my own dollars, and then learning that over the 2 years, so that I felt like I had a really great foundation of what actually happens in a syndication. And then having invested, talking to just, basic friends and family through my organic network conversations. So the real estate physician in creating in 2018 was to really have a more, a legitimate standardized approach, if you will, so that I'm not having one-off conversations, with a friend. I actually have, resources. I actually have a process to help people understand. So the company was formed more out of that, to have a standard reach, talk to other people besides, my one-off conversations, and to take what I had learned in syndications and try to see, okay, I understand physicians, I understand what my questions or my struggles were, so that when I talk to another physician, I feel like we are very much, kind of approaching it with a certain same perspective. and then knowing and understanding what struggles and obstacles or questions they might have. So it just became very easy for me. Kind of what you mentioned in the intro is that a lot of times I tell our doctors or investors now is, I'm doing exactly what I'm doing as a physician, helping you synthesize, information and trying to help you, right, make an informed decision in as objective way as possible. Right? That's exactly what I do as a physician. I'm just doing it now in real estate in a different subject area that I very much enjoy.
That's awesome, Cherry. And you know what? I want to take what Cherry just said and let's break it down, guys. What she did was she was an internal medicine doctor, well trained, did very well. She completed her training at Oregon Health and Sciences University. But you know what she did? She did a 2-year fellowship in multifamily real estate.
Yeah.
It was a 2-year fellowship that she did on her own. It was her side hustle, right? Side gig, and she was comfortable to a point, but she went into a discomfort to figure out what's going on. She asked questions. She remained curious. She thought it would be fun, and she used her entrepreneurship leanings that her parents sort of provided for her, and she felt that after studying something and becoming sort of a mini master at it, she can be a Rosetta Stone for physicians to really understand a investment strategy that is not mainstream, that is not what your Charles Schwab, your Fidelity person will tell you. And because of that, she's able to provide immense value. So people trust her, they like her, they understand, and she's philosophically aligned. What she's doing for herself, she's just providing now more opportunities for other people. And I always say, the more generous you are, the more wealthy you'll become because you're adding value. So that's amazing, Cherry. So let's talk about a little bit of mindset, and then I
Sure.
want people to get to know about your company, how they can invest with you, and how they can move forward with you. So number one, there's a lot of growth you had to go through, and a lot of scariness and a lot of uncertainty. You didn't know how to pitch, sell, present, share opportunities. I want to learn what was your best technique for that, and I want to learn when your worst thing that's happened since you started the company and how you overcame it. So let's start with
Good questions.
how did you
Yeah.
learn to communicate in a different way? Because you went from bedside manner to investor side manner.
Yeah. So I will say, kind of, what we just talked about, right? Where I felt like I was using the exact same skill set that I was using as a physician, right? Helping you understand a new topic where it might sound very confusing, lots of new terminology, right? And trying to communicate that in a way to where you can understand it. And I could do that with other physicians because we have similar backgrounds, kind of, training or lack of training in finance or real estate. And so it was a very natural way for me to transition that looking back. And it really played to my strengths, my passions that I already had being a physician. So in that way, I felt like it was very natural for me. And then you can feel when people are, genuine, sincere. And I never feel like I'm never convincing somebody, oh, real estate's the best investment, or this deal, you have to get into this deal, right? When you approach someone, as objectively as possible, knowing that we all might share some little bias, but that you're presenting objective information to them, and never feel like I have to persuade them in any way, right? So
So you
that
took
in
the pressure
itself,
out of it, and then you
yeah,
became an educator,
yeah.
and a person you're trying to think about empowering. And if it makes sense, do it. If not, at least now there's options. So great.
Right. Yeah. And what
And
makes
then
me, feel, yeah, sleep well at
let's.
night is knowing
I
that
want to know
they're at
about.
least educated.
I want to know about when things hit the fan. When you're like, oh crap. So tell me that oh crap moment since you started REP.
Yeah. So I mean, REP, then kind of the way we partner is right to find really great real estate partners so that we can be in attractive deals, right, to grow your wealth through these real estate investments. So I would say the hardest part is just the beginning, right, when the very first few projects where I was investing and trying to find other investors, for these projects that I believed in, right? I was putting my own money, my mom was putting her money in. So I think the hardest part is just to really understand, well, after you talk to people, right, you have to find investors, you have to find money, you have to have a property, right? Real estate is a property and investors. So the very first, kind of raise I did, I would say, was the most scary one. It's something I've never done before. Two, I never want to convince or persuade anybody to invest when they don't feel ready. And three, I want to be as unbiased as I am when I'm presenting something, even though it's a real estate deal, right? Just because it's right for me, how do I know it's right for you? And there's no way we can, dissect or evaluate that unless, we talk to each other or figure it out. So I think that was the scariest part at the very first couple of conversations and investments.
That's awesome. What's on your nightstand right now?
Nightstand. I love reading. I love podcasts or YouTube. Sometimes I feel like YouTube's kind of cut into like my attention span. But I think you mentioned, I forget if we talked about it before, but Rocket Fuel, where it's talking about visionary and integrator in any business. If you want to grow it or think of it beyond just you doing something you enjoy, like being a technician in a business. So that's really got me thinking. I'm more of a visionary person myself, if I had to identify. And then really kind of through the years as I've invested is to even go beyond real estate, right? Not looking for other asset classes, but really educating myself, just like I did in the beginning. Okay, real estate. Okay, single family. Okay, syndications. Now it's really understanding macroeconomics, geopolitics, interest rates. Right. When I first started, I was like, "Who cares about the interest rate?" And like, what's the Fed interest rate? Who cares what Jerome Powell has to say? Next week, right? So a lot of my education now is really digging into understanding that more, because as you talk to investors, it all interplays. And so
there's a really good
what
book
I'm
by
working
Ray
on.
Dalio. I think it's the New World Order, I believe, or something like that.
Correct.
So yeah, okay, guys, all that will be in the show notes. Number one, it's Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. Number two, I believe it's the Ray Dalio book. I think it's I think it's the New World Order.
It's New World Order. I haven't read that one specifically, but
so that'll be in the show notes as well.
Like that.
Where can people find out about you, your company, and how to be in your ecosystem here?
The easiest way is therealestatephysician.com. When you sign up, you get in touch with me, and we, just like we discussed on the podcast, figure out if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, at least you're making an informed decision. And so that's really the easiest way.
Guys, there you have it. She is, an amazing and curious woman who's a powerful physician who is now empowering physicians all over the country to grow their wealth. And it's all about paying it forward, and it's about expanding and adding value. So congratulations, Cherry. Well done. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge on our podcast with all our listeners and all the doctors out there. And guys, until next time, be phenomenal. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below or simply visit vikramraya.com. So until next time, my friends, be phenomenal.